just asked me the question in amongst a bunch of other ones. Was I getting any sleep? What weight was I? How much water was I drinking? So it just came across as a tick box exercise. She asked me that question just before I was getting my scan, and I was so excited for what I was going to see on the screen, so I kind of just rushed past that one so I could get to the scan. Probably would have been better to have a slower conversation after the scan. Sometimes it's just about the language that they use. Are you experiencing domestic violence? Do you fear your partner? I didn't even know the relationship I was in was abusive. So after I was asked, and I felt safe enough to say that, yeah, I did think we were at harm, all the questions just turned to physical harm. Would he harm me? Would he harm the baby? But at that point in our relationship, there was no physical abuse. So then the midwife followed up by saying that all new fathers experience stress, and when they've had a baby, and maybe his anger was just him losing his temper, and maybe that's what it was. That made me feel like I was completely overreacting, so I just agreed with the midwife. The months that followed, the abuse got worse, and it did turn physical. Might just be useful if they could talk a bit more about emotional abuse and about control. I didn't know I was being controlled. If it wasn't being hit, I thought it wasn't being abused.
Hello, my name is Flo Fagan. I'm the Head of Service of Hospital Social Work in the Southern Health and Social Care Trust. I'm here to kindly ask you for £3,000 to enable us to extend our very effective DASS project to the Daisy Hill Hospital site. The DASS project commenced in June 2020 on the Craigavon site, and we would like to now extend this service into the Daisy Hill site to ensure that we have a very responsive, effective service for all women attending with domestic abuse in either of our acute hospital sites. Unfortunately, we have no other funding resource for this project. In fact, we have begged, borrowed, and thankfully not stole yet as yet, and hopefully this £3,000 will prevent this. But we are working hard to keep this project that is so effective ongoing.
Hi, my name is Kayleen. I'm actually the DASS worker in the project. The DASS project was initially sent out following interviewing women who had engagements with acute services, for example, maternity and the ED department, who had experiences with domestic abuse, however never made disclosures within the hospital setting. Upon interviewing these women, some of the things that came out was that they didn't feel confident enough to make a disclosure within a hospital setting for a variety of reasons. One being that they felt the language that was used was inappropriate. For example, staff referring to abuse as domestic violence as opposed to domestic abuse, and these women perceived their experiences not to be abusive in this instance due to lack of understanding of what domestic abuse was. Other things that came out of those interviews was that individuals felt that they weren't given enough time to talk about their experiences of abuse and very much felt it was a tick box exercise. So with the DASS project, it is aimed to equip professionals with the skills and knowledge to identify domestic abuse on the front line and to be able to respond to these disclosures, to be able to risk assess and implement safety planning, to be able to create courageous conversations around domestic abuse in order to get these disclosures.
We know that providing trauma-responsive support to those who have experienced domestic abuse at the time they want it can and does save lives. Before the creation of the DASS project, Women's Aid Armagh Down received no direct referrals from hospital settings, despite the women we support telling us about their many interactions with hospital staff. Since we launched DASS, Women's Aid have now had 32 direct referrals, with more than 62% of those moving into longer-term community support.
With the recent rise in domestic violence attending all EDs across the province, DASS has provided my staff with very, very clear, concise guidelines with the referral process.
I thought it was so beneficial for midwives here to identify possible victims of domestic abuse in pregnancy and just alerting us to things that we should be looking out for. It was so helpful. I particularly thought Kayleen had an excellent slide on conversation starters and how we can come around the conversation of domestic abuse.
I think it helped my understanding about why victims stay with their abuser and just how scary it would be to make that first step to get help. I will certainly be more aware of any warning signs when I'm seeing patients and try to create environments where they will feel more able to disclose these kind of issues.
When working with service users who have been victims of domestic violence or living under the threat of domestic violence, we're aware at times how that can impact on them, but sometimes we can maybe miss things like signs, symptoms and indicators that maybe aren't as obvious. And this training was very helpful, insightful and indeed revealing in helping recognise those things. But not only that, but also looking at organisations being able to signpost service users to help and support.
I work with several women who are currently pregnant and also victims of domestic violence, and the DASS service has been able to support them whilst they attend antenatal appointments at Craigavon Area Hospital, and this has been invaluable for them in terms of support and guidance and signposting, and also the service has been a great link between acute services and mental health and addiction teams.
Working in partnership with our colleagues in the Trust and the community and voluntary sector is vital to the successful implementation of the MDT model in primary care. We know for a fact that the community and voluntary sector can provide local solutions to health and social wellbeing challenges. These challenges, if properly resourced, can be responsive and timely, based close to their home, person-centred and outcome-driven. We want to further support the growth in the provision and development of innovative schemes like DASS that we know will benefit the local people in this area. I've heard some very positive informal feedback both from hospital staff and users on having the support worker present within an acute setting and how staff feel confident and have the capacity to support people experiencing domestic violence.
Hello, I hope this video has given you some insight into this critical collaborative project. The project is only in its infancy. Year 1 evaluation has just been completed, and we hope to share this shortly with our Department of Health and Department of Justice colleagues to hopefully identify longer-term funding solutions. We've recently engaged with our GP Federation in Uri, our primary multidisciplinary teams, who has given us a small pot of funding to allow us to start the project also on the Daisy Hill site. But please be assured that this project is totally dependent on the small pots of money we are big and borrowing. So if we are successful here today, this money will enable us to extend the life of the project on both hospital sites, so that Year 2 evaluation will provide the evidence and positive outcomes for the victims, the children, the families, our multidisciplinary professionals, our statutory and voluntary agencies, and how this collaborative approach model is the most effective way to stop domestic violence. Thank you.